The Knicks, I can't even speak for the Knicks fans because whatever your opinion is, that's you. I'm just saying right now, as I sit here today, and if those picks are worked out, that we still get to hold on to some in terms of unprotected, I'm doing that deal, I'm doing that deal right now. I'm bringing a star to New York, and that star going to lead to other stars, and not so much just the other stars, but the other role players that you want. Episode of Knicks Morning Koffee. I'm your host, Mr. King. Y'all know my partner, Joe Cool.
What's good?
All right, so I got a confession to make. I was getting on you last week about being behind enemy lines at the Barclays Center, and I was there last week for the Liberty game when they played the Atlanta Dream. If they won that game, they was going to the playoffs. So they won that game. So I'm sitting in Barclays Center calling myself a hypocrite. But, got to represent.
It's the Liberty. That's the New York women's basketball team. Not like we got the Brooklyn Liberty.
So plus remember they used to be in the Garden. Yeah, so shout out to the Liberty for getting to the playoffs and also winning the first game in the playoffs. So, all right, let's get a little bit of house cleaning first. Like, comment, subscribe. We noticed last week wasn't really that many comments at all. So whatever we doing and not doing, let us know. And then we just take it from there. All right, so let's go to this, Joey. Today, I feel a little bit different than I felt the past few weeks in terms of this Donovan Mitchell. And now we've heard that the Jazz are interested in R.J. Barrett. So I started thinking about that when they went to R.J. Barrett and 6 first-round picks. Now, are they all unprotected? I'm not quite sure of that. But I started thinking about that one, and I'm like, I like Barrett too, but I started saying that, as Knicks fans, we're always asking ourselves that we want to be contenders. And so if we want to be a championship caliber team, does it have to be right now? And my theory is that if we can wait a year and still be competitive, I'm almost saying that depending on how those 6 picks roll out, let's take that gamble. And I was talking to somebody else, and they were saying, well, you're essentially saying that you would trade for Donovan Mitchell. You wouldn't give up Grimes, but you would give up RJ. But not necessarily true, because a whole lot came attached to the Grimes trade. You're talking about all of our young guys, IQ, OB, all our picks. So this one is Donovan. This one is RJ and some picks. And the part I started thinking about it is that New York needs a star, and if we're going to start a rebuild, and I know I sound like a hypocrite, if we're going to start a rebuild in terms of putting together a championship contender, I say if the picks are right, why not do that deal? Because you still protect your young guns. You still hold on to some of your first-round picks that are unprotected. You may lose RJ, but I'm looking at what you gained, because last year, they say Donovan doesn't make us a contender or put us in for a championship. But what Donovan does in this scenario is we lost a lot of games 5 points or less, right? Because we couldn't close with the efficiency that it takes to be a closing team. We couldn't do that. And Donovan at least brings that. He brings that opportunity to break down the defense and to be able to hit a clutch shot because he's supposed to. Not just because he was hot. He's young, he's energetic. He haven't entered his prime yet. And I'm like, I know everybody want RJ, and I like RJ too, because I would like to see them both play together. But I'm almost saying on this one, I'm almost thinking that the Knicks have to do this one. If that's the holdup, I think we need to do it. And I'm going to give you 3 of my reasons why I think that we can build a contender next season if we pick up Donovan Mitchell right now. So by acquiring him now, under that scenario, what we do is before the season, we take him, we look at who's on our roster we know we can really count on, right? That's a role player that you can count on day in and day out. And you count that person. If you don't see that person, you go out and you get a mid-level good type guy before the season, because people are going, the trees are going to be shaking, and then good players are going to fall before training camp starts. And then if need be, you go out and you grab one of those low-end guys that you know you can count on, if you don't already have them. Then you look at the trade deadline. The trade deadline, you go out and you try to get a top tier 2 or 3 player. That second level player that's a star, but he's not quite a star, but you can use him on your team to help you fill out your roster in terms of, again, somebody you can count on. And then in free agency, you go out and you get the big fish. Now I'm looking at, you got potentially going into next season, now you potentially have your big 3 type of a team, because you get that real second all-star, and you get that third guy who's on the brink of an all-star, if you don't already have him. And we can set ourselves up for having a team because all these guys are young for a long time to come. And if Donovan Mitchell could be the face of the team right now, depending on who you can pick up in free agency or at the trading deadline. So I think the Knicks now, we have to stop being stubborn, and then we got to look at where could our team go from here. R.J. Barrett is a nice talent. We know he can grow, but even on the sense of, if you was just saying Grimes alone, whose upside is bigger? R.J. was a number 2 pick with a great upside, but sometimes going into year 3, most guys in this league, the way this league going right now, most guys have already found their stride. So R.J. puts up the points, but at least we know with Grimes, if you held on to Grimes can be that guy that even if you go out and get another star or 2, Grimes can come off the bench and still be that scoring assassin that you need. Because if you keep RJ with him and you bring in another star, now that's where you run into your problems. If that other star is a player that plays a 3 or low, like 1, 2, or 3. So I think the Knicks need to really take a look at that one. And I know that's against popularity, but at this point I don't even care. If we're thinking about the long-term future and the immediate future as far as winning and putting together a contender, I think for that, I think we do that deal. 6 picks is a lot. If those 6 picks, if some of them can be protected, hey, start with Donovan Mitchell. If it's not Randall, start zeroing in on another semi-star. And then by free agency and the draft, go out and get yourself that big fish that you need. And you still hold on to some of your other first-round picks because you can't give them all the way in the next few years. And if you put together the right team this year going into next year, you don't even need all those picks right away. So I just think that we now we get in the borderline to be stubborn. Because RJ, what he could be and what he is, Donovan Mitchell, it ain't no comparison.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the Knicks have to consider doing this deal for Donovan Mitchell. If it's only 6 picks and you can dictate at least 2 or 3 of those 6 picks of what they are, in terms of protection, hey, let's start this train moving in that type of direction, in this superstar type of direction, and we still protect our young assets, because what people have to also remember, you don't get a star caliber player without giving up something. Now, we didn't want to give up all our young guys, which I'm in favor for, our young guys including the picks, but now we're talking about mano plus some picks. So I don't know how you really feel about that one, but I feel like we should do it.
Yeah, I had a change of heart too, but not in that sense. When you're talking with your friends and everybody online about the same thing you said, like, do we go for Donovan Mitchell? Do we not? Do we just keep the team we have? Honestly, this is a crapshoot at this point because we don't really know how we're going to go into the season. We don't even consider who our starters are. We don't consider who is the face. It's almost like, Randall's up for grabs. Like, they're talking about they're still trying to get rid of Westbrook. And remember, if we would have got him, we would have just brought him out if we would have switched him for Randall or something. With Donovan Mitchell, my whole thing is that, like you said, the team as we know it right now is not that team. So once we get him, and even if we do change him for RJ, I think we was leaning more towards RJ, but I think at this point, it is what it is.
I mean, we
Because Donovan Mitchell do sound way better than nothing. Because right now, technically, we have nothing because we're not winning with it.
Yeah, it just started growing on me to, like, we want our homegrown players. We want our players that we drafted to be the face of the franchise. But if we can accelerate that with a 25-year-old who really hasn't even reached his prime yet, now I'm started thinking that let's do that. Because when we didn't want to give up our young guys, was it just our young guys, or was it our young guys and the picks? Because it seems like, other teams wanted different pieces of our young core.
Yeah,
right?
But I think it's too, we don't use what we have. As the fans, we can see it a little different than, I guess, management. It's like, if this person can shoot, drive, and all this kind of stuff, why don't we let him do it? If Mitchell Robinson can shoot a three, why don't we let him do it? Mm-hmm. If maybe Randall's playing a lesser role, why don't we make him do that? The beauty about playing a video game, like NBA 2K, is I can control the team how I want to. Mm-hmm. As a fan, as a person that loves video games, I could do that. When we watch it on Knicks, it's like cringy because it's like, yo, just like, what are y'all doing? So Donovan Mitchell, the way you put it, it makes me feel better. But y'all want to see RJ go?
No.
RJ, absolutely not. But that means if you don't go, you got to prove to the fans that this is why they kept you. That's the whole thing. Like, don't go into a third year and we failed because it's your fault.
Yeah, and then also on the flip side of the Knicks, Utah don't want Randall. But, did you offer Randall, or did you, with a package? Mm-hmm. Did you do that? Because that money is much closer. You can give up less. But we know that Utah wants picks. Mm-hmm. That's their main goal, is that they want picks. But yeah, I'm just right now. I'm just feeling good about it. I don't know if it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong on that part. But I just feel like now is the time that we got a chance to put up a shut up. And if that's the only thing standing in our way, because even if we went out to get another star, we're giving up somebody else. So who would that somebody else be? Mm-hmm. If we know everybody's not taking Randall? Who would that person be? So
again, we not getting KD, we not getting LeBron. I remember seeing in the comments, I'd rather take players that I know can be a star without a doubt, like what's his name? Is he on the Pelicans? I always say his name. I forgot his name.
You talking about Ingram?
Ingram, like somebody like that like how we seen Randall. Like, maybe if you give him the keys, maybe he can be better than what he is. I see that in like somebody like Ingram. Like, would it be easier to just go get him?
Well, Ingram turned down. Remember, New Orleans turned down the Nets as far as including Ingram in the deal.
For KD?
Yeah, whatever the other package, whatever the other parts was.
Somebody else probably see it. Like,
that's hearsay. Yeah, that's hearsay. But
or you just don't want to mess up the chemistry of the team, because at the end of the day, it's the team that what matters.
Yeah.
But like again, we feel this way. And 2 years ago, we was making it to the playoffs, even though we only made it to the first round, but we made it there. So yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's patience.
Listen, I don't know. Last year, I don't know. Really, in the past week or two, is that fast. I just started thinking about having Donovan Mitchell there and what that could bring. But just to jump right quick over to the KD thing, everybody say we can't get KD, but if the Knicks could put together the type of package, remember, there's only one or two teams, and we one of them, that have the players and the assets, with the draft picks to be able to go out and get a player. Mm-hmm. Now, I think teams don't trust KD to give up their other franchise players for him. But if the Knicks flirted with the idea, you could come up with a player and draft pick package for KD to put it out there. If you could, being that he wants to be traded.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Imagine Donovan Mitchell and KD at the same time. I feel like that was doable.
Anybody that can score to go along with KD is doable.
Yeah, I felt like that was.
Yeah, but the Nets, and I hate to say this, but the Nets are not lost, because one thing we know about KD with the Nets or any team he played for, even if he's unhappy, he's a gamer. So when he stepped between them lines, whether he want to be in Brooklyn or not, he gonna ball out. So, hey, but he's not off the table. If the Knicks really wanted to go on a limb, and you have to go on a limb because the New York papers are going to eat it up. The talk show is going to eat it up. So you're going to be hurting a whole lot of feelings. So KD is not. It's not really that you really probably can't get KD, because if they were willing to trade him to Boston, and you put together a sweet enough package, you probably could get him. But again, a whole lot of feelings going to be hurt in that process. Because if you do it and you don't get him, it's going to be a whole lot of crying eyes in that locker room. So, but I just wanted to make the comparison that we know we didn't want to give up Quentin Grimes, IQ, and Obi. Not to mention Derrick Rose in that too. But we know we didn't want to give up them and all those draft picks, because that is your future.
Yeah, everything had Grimes. RJ, remember, one had Grimes, and it was too much.
Yeah, but again, you attaching that to the draft picks. That makes it, if it fails, now you don't have your young guys and you don't have your draft picks.
Yeah. So
now where do you go from there? Now you got to try to unload a player. But even the thing with the Russell Westbrook thing now, because there's also talk that the Lakers want Randall. Now, do they want Randall, or do they know that by including Randall, you get to unload Westbrook's salary? Now, is he a free agent next year? Does he come off the books next year or no?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, see that's the only way that it makes sense, because even in this case too, even before you waive him.
The Knicks the idea was to get him and then just waive him. And that means it wasn't.
But that's what I was thinking. Are they allowed to just waive a player of that caliber and that money?
I saw old Westbrook clips, and I thought about it. Because I'm thinking about Ben Simmons. I don't really care about your shooting. So I thought about Westbrook in a Knicks uniform. I said, that might be fun for a little while. I don't know.
I mean, when he was out west running with, with his old team, and they running and gunning, it looks better. But with the East, with a lot of the slowing down that we do, that's when that West Brick, what's the name called? That's when that comes into play. But if you don't have Donovan Mitchell, and now if you had to bring in, how does that look now with Brunson and Westbrook? And that means Randall would go in the trade. So you're essentially saying Brunson, Westbrook, and RJ. If we're running, it could look nice at times, if we're running. But
well, I think we was watching that Laker documentary. You were saying something about was it the Lakers or the Pistons that was doing 3 guards essentially?
Yeah,
So say that, and then that's when I was like Donovan Mitchell, but then I'm thinking RJ. It's almost like that 3-guard thing you was talking about.
Yeah, that's a high usage. That's in a, now a lot of teams, they play 9, 10, 11 guys. That's in a high usage. What I was telling him was, for somebody too who used to coach and still coach, often, I always try to model my teams after the Pistons and the Lakers, depending on what I had. Because back in the 80s, the Lakers had 3 guards that they rotated, and that's all who played. So you had Magic and Byron Scott starting, and then you have Michael Cooper coming in for any one of the 3 positions, be it small forward, shooting guard, point guard. And then the Pistons had Isaiah Joe Dumars starting, and then they had Vinnie Johnson coming in. Dumars slid to the point, and Vinnie Johnson slid to the shooting guard, and then they just kept rotating that. So now you're getting high usage out of those 3 players, and then, and that's barring injury. And then somebody foul trouble and rest, somebody else get that 3rd or 4th guy gets to play. But that's a theory that I always like, because you got guys playing and you got them in a rhythm. But again, if you're not using all those guys to that capacity, we living in the age now of load management, right? So that didn't exist before. If you wasn't injured, you played hurt, you just didn't play injured. But that's a theory that the Knicks was to embody that. Yeah, with the 3 guards constantly rotating around, that would be nice.
Yeah, but I did, and that's the problem. So we don't have when we watch the game, there is no 7-man or 8-man rotation. There is no we kind of feed the big man. We don't got Embiid or somebody, and our point guards are just not doing it for us. It's not like a 3-man guard thing, and we just going out there shooting lights out. We don't got Steph Curry shooting from 4-point range. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but
I think that's our whole problem as fans. We don't really got true identity. We're not beating people up on defense.
Can't cut you off. You remember last week the guy said I cut you off too much.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but listen, I know it's funny. But listen, we kind of we don't have Steph Curry, but if we're comparing Grimes to Allen Houston and to Klay Thompson, now if he could be efficient, because he has a quick trigger. He has a deep trigger, and he has a pull-up. So if we can put him in that mode, whatever he's working on this summer, because we saw a lot of the other guys. If we can put Grimes in that mode of that type of a shooter with that quick, deep trigger that he got, and we up his value, again, it all depends on his efficiency. We almost kind of got that guy. That's why it was kind of hard to see him go, because of the shooting aspect that he brings and that defensive toughness in your face that he brings. They say RJ is a defender. RJ ain't that type of defender. RJ, he'll guard his man, but he ain't shutting you down. And if we keep RJ, that's fine. I'm not saying that. But if you're going to compare with what they want now as opposed to what they wanted later, and they still just testing the waters. Later it might come down to the picks and Fournier. Who knows? Because that's really what they want. They really just want the picks. So, but right now, if we have a chance to get this guy, for that, let's get him. Now, there was also some talk that Utah was other teams, they were entertaining other teams, and it's supposedly something that they like. I thought that was a bluff, because it would have been mentioned who that other team was. Yeah. So there was no other team. It might have other teams that inquire, but there's no other teams that y'all listening to, because we know that Danny, what he really wants is those picks. So he's doing what other people did years in the past, is that they know that you bluff the Knicks long enough, you get that big bite out of that big apple. And it seemed like Leon Rose and them are holding tight, which they should. Hold tight and give up what you could afford to give up. But keep in mind that the bigger star you go after, the more you got to give up. Because we don't have a star that's an even swap. Not in star power and not in money. So unless you get a guy like Donovan Mitchell, now you don't have a guy that you can swap somebody with. So I just think that the Knicks, I can't even speak for the Knicks fans, because whatever your opinion is, that's you. I'm just saying right now, as I sit here today, and if those picks are worked out, that we still get to hold on to some in terms of unprotected, I'm doing that deal, I'm doing that deal right now. I'm bringing a star to New York, and that star going to lead to other stars, and not so much just the other stars, but the other role players that you want. Because we have our young guys that we believe in, And then I also saw something where they said Jericho Sims is the Knicks' best kept secret. And that's really not true. And Jericho Sims, to me, he could be a beast in this league. He just hasn't played into a crowded front court. Because it's going to come down to Sims and Obi. That's what it seems like it's going to come down to. So let me ask you this then. Up front, because we're always talking about our guards. How are you comfortable with, if we went into the season with our 5 men we have up front, meaning Mitch, Hernestein, however you say his name, Randall, Obi, and Jericho. That's not a bad 5-man front, especially if we get more uses out of Obi in terms of the things that he's able to do. That's a pretty good.
And Hernestein, dude, I want to see him play, because he looked pretty good. So
yeah, he seems it's like he's going to be active, and he's going to be a person that's going to be around that ball. And it's funny, he's going to be allowed to be around the ball, where Mitchell Robinson is just told, hand off. Remember the play last year? I wish you could find that, when Mitchell went to do the fake handoff, and then he went between his legs. And what I was saying about him when we got him was that same way we did with Amari Stoudemire at the elbow, have him fake the handoff and go straight to the basket. Because one step and he's airborne. And then who's going to be able to get in the way and stop that? So we sitting in a good position right now. A good position to say that if we went back into the season with the team we have now, I don't got no problem with that. But if we're talking about being star-studded, unless we're actually really, really, really grooming our stars, then, hey, pull the trigger.
I mean, I hope with Donovan Mitchell on the Knicks, did we look better than Utah?
Yeah, I think we look better than Utah. Now, I mean, somebody did say something last week or the week before when we kept saying this was with the other deal, with all of our young guys and picks, that Donovan Mitchell has gotten his team into a crowded West, has gotten his team into the playoffs every year. And, so let's give him credit for that, because here he would be asked to do what he did in Utah, but not so much on that high volume. At the end of the game, look what we got. Because we have guys that can shoot and that can space the floor. and we got guys that can run. So what we don't have is that closer. So could he, if he could be, if you can ask the question that, or answer the question, he could be that closer, then we definitely would be better than, than Utah in that sense. Now, we're not in the West, but then we almost have a lot of stuff that we need. And the only thing we would be missing, and Hernestein, how you say his name, I guess they say he could hit the three, is really that stretch four, that 7-foot stretch four is what we don't have.
Yeah.
Even though Obi shows signs of knocking down the three, but a constant guy like Bertans, who can just, stand back there and knock down the three as a 7-footer. We don't have that. But that would be the last thing that we would need in that sense. To me, if you're not going to get another star player, and that's saying that if you still have Randall, because Randall still got some value to the team, rather people just don't want to admit it or not. When the boy want to play, the boy can play.
Yeah, I can't think about Donovan Mitchell too much because then you'll have my heart hurt if we didn't get him.
Yeah, but it just sometimes a feeling just come over you and you start looking at somebody who just balls out as far as shooting, breaking down the defense, getting to the, and I looked up his assists, and his assists and RJ assists, they're the same. Now with a guy that can really penetrate and dish out, I don't know how much his usage of dishing out is, with the kind of shooters that we do have, and that will help IQ be what he's supposed to be. That type of guy that can sit out there and be a sniper himself. So hey, if nothing happens, I'm cool. But if we're talking about being, a star-driven team, then where do we start? And if we don't start here, then where? Because at some point, all these players were rookies. Donovan Mitchell, what he went somewhere in the high teens, right? Drafted. Like sometimes you just don't know until you put players in that type of position to do what they do. So hey, that's the topic that was on my mind most of the week. So I had to get that out there.
You say like we about to break up with RJ.
No, we ain't. Listen, if RJ's back, I'm fine. But if we have to make a choice right now today, if I got to put on my GM hat, I'm making the choice. I don't care what nobody say. I'm making that choice. But if RJ comes back, I'm cool because I think they would be able to play good together. Because I think RJ would know that ball is protected with Donovan and Brunson, and he would get out there and run. When he's at his best, when he's on the wing. So either way, I'm cool. So unless you was some ad, Joey.
I ain't got nothing to add today. I'm
done today. Of course, as the season goes on, we have much more to talk about with the Knicks. But we want everybody to have a safe rest of your weekend. This is going to air Monday morning, 7 o'clock sharp. Hit your notification bell and subscribe. And tell a friend to subscribe. We need y'all. Peace.
Peace.